This is my review for The Crown of Gilded Bones, spoiler-free, by Jennifer Armentrout. Before I go any further, I do want to say that for me, this was the worst book so far in the series, and I will definitely explain all the reasons why I think that coming up. But first, I just want to talk about some of the things I still really enjoyed and some of the things I really liked about this book before I get into the, things that made me annoyed and made me sad because I love the first two books so much and this one just wasn't as good. Okay, but before we rip the hair out, I still love the characters. The characters have been developed already and from Blood and Ash and Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. And I still love Poppy, I still love Hawk, I still love the side characters that have been developed in those books, and I loved seeing them in this book and continuing their story and seeing like the little funny things that they do in their relationship. That's always been fun. Second of all, there's just moments. This author is just so dramatic. And I love when there's like this big dramatic scene and you see like all these visuals and it's just over the top. And I can see for some people not liking that, but for fantasy romances, I love over the top dramatic scenes. This book definitely has a couple of those, and it's always fun to read those. You know, Jennifer Armentrout style is always to put a big dramatic scene at the end, and I'm a sucker for that. I love the dramatic scenes. And then the other thing that this book uniquely did well that wasn't in the previous two books, something new that I actually really enjoyed, was a deep delve into the lore. We get to learn more about the world, and she's already developed the society pretty well in the first two books, but now we get to know more about the gods and more about deities and more about the intricacies of that section of society and of that section of this world. And that was really fun. It added another layer to everything we already knew and complicated the context that our story is being told in. So all of that was really cool. But this book was frustrating. Here's my theory for why there was a turning point in my brain where I was giving the second book 5 stars. First book I gave 4 stars, really enjoyed it. And this one's just not there. I think when the romance was basically resolved in the second book to where a lot of that tension went away, it shifted the focus from the romance to the actual story. And without the superb romance, tension, and story building, I did not feel the same about this book. When I'm no longer focusing on the amazing romance and I'm focusing on the plot of the story, it just changes the quality. It just does. One thing that constantly occurs, has occurred in the previous 2 books a little bit, and just continues occurring, is fake danger. Where there is an event that occurs and it seems super dramatic, but oh, we fixed it, super easy, done.
Actually super easy, barely an inconvenience.
I won't say exactly which one that was or where that was, but it's a common thread now in these books where Jennifer Armentrout just throws her characters into fake danger just to have something dramatic happen, even though it just magically resolves itself. Like, you don't even have to have an amazing plan. It just works out. The bad guys are always idiots. I don't know. I would be fine, but I want the characters themselves to have to do a little bit more thinking. It seems sometimes in these books the characters are just controlled by their surroundings and they're not really accountable for what they do. And in this book, I think that was highlighted a little bit more than in previous books. Oh my gosh. And then this book, it has way too many info dumps. You know, an info dump being when you read a chapter and it's basically a bad guy or a good guy or someone just telling you all the information of the world right in a row, just chapters on end, info dump. This book has that a lot, more than the other 2 books did. And sometimes it doesn't make sense why these people would give info dumps. Like, it doesn't make sense for their character, for their goals, of what they're trying to do. It's basically just, we need to know this information and this was the easiest way to get it across, which I get it because she's pumping out these books really fast. I mean, if you think about it, like, yeah, this book came out in 2020, and then it was like towards the end of 2020, and then the book that we're talking about right now that I wrote on my Kindle came out today. There's not very much time in between books, so I can see how she just needs to get them out fast. And of course, all of us want to know what happens to Poppy and Hawk. I get it. But the info dumps just take me out of the story and make me a little bit annoyed, honestly, when it happens too much. There's also, okay, so one of my least favorite tropes in books is miscommunication. And it kind of happens in this book. And it's almost defensible, and I won't tell you the details because you probably haven't read it yet. But there's two main instances where the miscommunication just changed the plot completely. If these things had been communicated properly earlier, the entire book would have ended up differently. And then it's just the uneven pacing. So I definitely think that this book could have been combined with the next book in the series. I don't even know how many books are in this series. Does anyone happen to know how long I'll be reading these? Because I mean, I'm a sucker for the romance, so I'll keep reading them. But how many books is it gonna take? It just seemed like 75-80% of this book could have been the first 100 pages, and then the story could have gone from there. It was drawn out until the end. Especially the first two books, or especially the first book being so fast-paced. I kind of wanted that in this too, but it ended up kind of feeling like it was dragging on, especially combined with those info dumps that I already talked about. The last thing is just, you know, this is a lot of YA and new adult books, but I want sacrifices to be real. And while there is danger and sometimes there needs to be a sacrifice, I always feel like in these books, it's not enough for me. So if you like it to be a little bit grittier and you like to have things kind of sad happen in your book or realistic happen in your book, this is definitely taking your feelings into account. It always makes sure that nothing that bad happens because it doesn't want you to be sad. And I like being sad. I think sad is healthy. So I don't know. Somehow I want to get across to YA and NA authors that I can be a little bit sad and it's okay. Rip my heart out. Make me feel like crying. And the sacrifices in this book for the situations they're put in, just to me, were not enough. So because of some of those elements, like I said, I'm a sucker for the romance. I love the characters, but I just can't give it a 4-star or a 5-star like I gave the first two books. In a bad mood, I think it's a 2.5 star. In a good mood, I think it's a 3-star. So that's where I stand with this. Thanks for watching. Please go ahead and give this video a like, and hopefully I'll see you later.